I have been burdened with glorious purpose. I'm just a little behind schedule on that purpose. Hello, I'm Phil, welcome to my channel where I like to talk about all the geeky pop culture that I love and consume, including things like Doctor Who, Red Dwarf, and the MCU. And yes, this review is late. I had intended on weekly reviewing Loki as it came out, and I went and recorded a review of that very first episode, got it to my editing software, and discovered that there was no sound. The microphone, something had gone wrong, there was no sound on it. And quite frankly, that put me in a bit of a funk for a good couple of months. I literally lost all enthusiasm for making videos for 2 months because I recorded a video and the sound hadn't come through. It just, I don't know why, it just destroyed my motivation. And I just could not get around to re-recording that review. And then it just spiraled and I didn't record any other reviews. And I made a lot less videos over the last few months as well. But hopefully I'm out of that funk now. And we can now talk about Loki. I'm just going to do it all in one review. I'm not going to go through it episode by episode. I'm just going to talk about it, my general feelings about it. It's going to be an overall review. So, I liked it. It was really good. I loved it. Thanks for watching. No, don't go anywhere. That's not the end of the review. We will talk a little bit more in depth other than that. Spoilers coming, so, if you haven't seen it, why not? It's been out ages. Go watch it, and then come back and watch the review. But let's talk about it, because with some spoilers. I've already said I liked it. Let's talk about why I liked it. One of the things I think these Disney Plus TV shows can do really well is experiment, do something a bit quirky, a bit weird, something that they wouldn't take a risk on in the movies. And that is definitely what they did with WandaVision. And I absolutely loved, especially that first sort of half of WandaVision where you didn't quite know what was going on. All of the stuff with the TV shows, very quirky, very surreal. Loved that. You'd never have gotten that in a movie situation. Well, I mean, the format of WandaVision just wouldn't have worked in a movie situation. Its format was predicated on it being a TV show. But with Loki, I've got similar vibes of the kind of surrealness, the uneasiness of just being put on the back foot and not really knowing what's going on or what could happen at any moment because you don't know the rules of how the world works. And that is kind of what's excited me about both WandaVision and this show. Now, I enjoyed Falcon and the Winter Soldier. It was an okay show. It was a good show. I enjoyed it. I did weekly reviews of that one. But it didn't have quite... It wasn't something special. It kind of felt like a mid-tier MCU movie stretched over 6 episodes. Whereas this and WandaVision have felt more like they deserve to be there, that there's something special, that they have really earned their place to be the length they are. Now, arguably WandaVision let it down in the last, say, 1 or 2 episodes. Loki didn't. Loki was pretty much solid all the way through. I mean, even some of the things where I've seen some people talk about some of the episodes in the middle that they felt weren't as strong. Personally, I disagree. I think every single episode of this series was top notch for different reasons, and they have different paces to them. It's not an action show, but it has action in it. But not every episode needs to be full of action and full of like it's an MCU movie, because it's not. It's an MCU TV show, and they should be doing different things with it, and they do. Another thing I really like is that they didn't sort of stand still from episode to episode. Arguably, with WandaVision, the time frame changed and some of the visual cues changed from when they were going through different eras. But effectively, there was a pattern to it. Each episode, you would get a different era of a TV show. And what I thought going into Loki was that we were going to get something where each episode would kind of revolve around a theme and be relatively, the same-ish. What I thought we were going to get is after Loki ends up joining the TVA, and working with Mobius, we would get a kind of procedural type show where each week they are maybe on the hunt for this other Loki variant, which we didn't know about in the trailers, but that, you know, they'd be working towards some overarching goal, I thought, when we saw the trailers, and he'd be working with them, and they'd be going to different locations, different time periods, maybe different universes, timelines, etc., each week, and we would gradually work our way building up more of the storyline. That's not what happened. We got that set up for one episode, really, which was episode 2, and then Loki manages to get away from the TVA, and each episode of Loki had a completely different format. Again, I really liked that. You had the first episode, which was really setting it up, giving us all the information and throwing Loki into this location and this sort of situation which he even doesn't understand. And you can see the confusion on his face a lot of the time when he's just trying to process it all, and he's trying his little tricks to manipulate people, and it's just not working. Love that. And then episode 2, you get something a bit more like the procedural, where he's going on missions and he's being sent on a mission with Mobius. Then he abandons them and hooks up with Sylvie, who we find out is Sylvie, and we get a kind of a sort of few episodes where they're bonding and working. You know, we get to see their relationship develop, and they're trying to get off this planet. Then, you know, we get to the sort of attack on the TVA. Then we get the big finale. And every episode just feels completely different. And I really love that. It felt different every episode while still progressing the same story. And it kept me guessing the whole time. I had theories throughout, and some of them panned out, some of them didn't. I was going to make videos about them, but again, never really got around to it. And yeah, some of them panned out. Some of them are still up in the air. Could pan out. Who knows? But it kept me guessing throughout, and I really liked that. It was a mystery box, but but clearly one where they knew where they were going. The problem with mystery boxes as story arcs isn't inherently that there's anything bad with mystery boxes or mysteries in general. It's only a problem if they haven't decided where they're going when they start. That's the problem. If you get a show where they go, hey, let's create this mystery. Oh, where's it going? I don't know, we'll work it out later. That's when you get problems. But here, they quite clearly knew where they were going, because obviously they have to. It ties into... It's going to have massive repercussions on the whole of the MCU. And they know where they're going. They knew where they were going, and it worked perfectly. Some other things I really liked. Loads of really good character dynamics. Loads of really good duos where the chemistry was great between the characters. Owen Wilson's Mobius is fantastic. He's great. I was a little bit skeptical when they cast him, but it worked out really well in the end. And his chemistry with Loki is brilliant, and their interactions where, again, Loki's trying to get one over on Mobius, and Mobius is not having any kind of... They've got a great relationship. Then you get Loki with Sylvie, and the chemistry there is really good as well. And on the subject of Sylvie, I thought brilliantly cast, really interesting character, and yeah, I'm interested in learning more. I hope we see more of her in season 2 as well. Then we get Mobius and Ravina as well. I thought she's the sort of judge person at the TVA, the sort of person in charge, and their relationship was really interesting as well, especially when it got to the moment where Mobius feels a bit betrayed by her because she prunes him towards the end. And when he's questioning the TVAs, when he's found out that they're all variants, and he's found out that the TVA is built on lies, when he challenges that, she prunes him. This is one of his oldest friends. They've been colleagues for aeons, possibly. You know, we don't know how long, but it's implied to be a long, long time. And you know, she betrays him, and seeing that, having built up the friendship, was really interesting. So the character dynamics in this show are fantastic. The chemistry is really good as well. I loved the episode where they got thrown to the end of time and had to, you know, escape the big cloud monster and met up with loads of other Lokis. I would have liked to have seen a bit more. There were some great Easter eggs in there. The Thanos copter, which is from the comics. At one point, Thanos did, in the comics, have a helicopter with the name Thanos written on the side. So that's there. And there's Throg, the Thor frog, in a little jar somewhere. Yeah, and there's loads of other Easter eggs. There's videos all over the internet pointing them all out. But that was great to spot all of those. Lots of fun there. Seeing the different Loki incarnations. I'm surprised there was only one other Hiddleston looking one there. The rest of them look completely different. You'd think they'd throw in a couple more Hiddlestons. You've only had the sort of President Loki there, the vote Loki guy, who in the trailers I thought gave the impression that was going to be our Loki at some point. So nice little bait and switch there, setting up sort of expectations for them to flip them on their heads later on. And Richard E. Grant as old Loki, wow, that guy is brilliant. And, you know, he's been brilliant in things like Doctor Who and loads of other things. Yeah, really good. And I don't know what to say. I love the costume as well. I mean, it wouldn't work anywhere else in the MCU other than talking about parallel universes and things where you can get away with these crazy... They've done this a lot in the TV shows, haven't they? Because they've had in WandaVision, they had, but via the sort of pretense of having the Halloween costumes, having Wanda and Vision in their, you know, comic accurate original costumes. And here we get to see Loki's comic accurate original costume as well. So lots of fun to be had there as an Easter egg. But Richard E. Grant kind of sells it. Even in that ridiculous, silly costume, he feels like it doesn't feel too silly because he managed to bring a kind of gravitas to it and a kind of weariness to his portrayal of this older, wizened, slightly battle-hardened Loki that's kind of given up on, you know, realised the error of his ways just through longevity of life. So that was really good. And then we get to the big reveal at the end, which I think a lot of people kind of guessed because, yes, although they don't name him here, it was all Kang the Conqueror. Well, He Who Remains, as he's called here. But yes, the implication is that this is a variant of Kang the Conqueror. And he has separated out the sacred timeline from the rest of the multiverse. Or I don't... See, this is one of my theories that I don't think was firmly confirmed in the show, but I think is implied that the multiverse... the end of this episode doesn't create the multiverse. The multiverse exists. But during the multiversal war they talk about, somehow this version of Kang managed to isolate this one particular timeline. And every time there's a branching timeline coming off of this timeline, the TVA has to stop it before it reaches that red line, because then it connects up with the rest of the multiverse, and then that's when you can get travel between them, and the other Kangs will come. I think that's what the implication is, but we'll see. And yeah, oh god, I've forgotten the actor's name and I don't have anything to look it up with here, but the actor that plays him here, fantastic. We already knew he's playing Kang in Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, the film that's coming up. That, I presume, will be a different version of Kang. And I just like the way these TV shows are setting up stuff that is quite clearly going to affect the wider MCU, but in a way that you don't have to have watched them, because you can just sort of, like in this, presumably in Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, he'll discover that the multiverse exists and it's madness. Madness is going on. It's madness. And he'll deal with that consequences. Now we, having watched this show, know why that madness exists. But it won't matter. You don't have to have seen this. You just have to know there's madness. You don't need to know why there's madness to watch the film. At least I presume. Same with Scarlet Witch's sort of status. She was grieving Vision at the end of Endgame, and she's grieving him at the end of WandaVision. Now, when she goes into Multiverse of Madness, we don't need to have known necessarily all of the stuff that happened with the TV shows and stuff in between. We just know she was grieving him then, she was grieving him then. The children might play into it a bit more, we'll see. Captain America, Falcon, aka Falcon, You know, at the end of Endgame, he's given the shield, passed the mantle of Captain America to him. If he starts the next film he's in as Captain America, nobody's going to question it. But we've got this, having watched the TV show, we've got this added bit of the story, which isn't vital to know to watch anything that comes after it, but is nice to know as we've watched it. So I think that's kind of what they're doing with the TV shows. Kind of works out quite well. And with Kang, we've got a really interesting situation where this variant, and this actor, I mean, what a job. What a job to have. Because if we're going to see him multiple times as multiple variants possibly, he gets to play effectively many different characters within the MCU, really stretch his acting abilities and play them completely differently. And it's kind of one part, but it's kind of not. What a great role for an actor. So we get this, in this one, we get this really kind of fun, sort of mischievous, playful guy who's a bit kooky, and he, he's not a terrible guy, he seems. Now, I reckon at some point, possibly in Ant-Man and the Wasp, we're going to get the really hard, bitter, maybe serious Kang, maybe more in line with what we've got in the comics. And he will be able to play that completely differently. So, yeah, really looking forward to seeing him stretch his acting by doing this role in multiple ways. If I could say one maybe slight negative about this series, I do think it rushed Loki's character development somewhat, because obviously this is a Loki that picks up right after Avengers. He gets the Tesseract, having been defeated by the Avengers, and he's captured by the TVA almost immediately. So, in terms of where he starts, he's of the mindset that we saw in Avengers. He's slightly crazed, wants to rule the world, that kind of thing. Wants to get rid of everybody's free will, that kind of thing. And, I mean, even by the second episode of this, he's now, it seems like a nice guy that we can root for. And they kind of gloss over this a little bit. They give us a reason. He's shown, what would happen to him in what happens to the non-variant version, the Sacred Timeline version of him, and all the stuff that happens with his mum dying and his adopted mum dying, and eventually him coming around and working with his brother, and then him dying, standing up to Thanos, and all of that. So they kind of show him that, and we do get a nice scene of it affecting him, and it clearly taking him processing that. But to go from I want to rule the world to, I've seen what would happen had I gone down that path, and I'm a completely changed man, just like that, feels a little bit too quick for me to how he ends up. I don't know, maybe that's just me. I'm glad that they did put in a reason why it happened, but I still think it was a little bit too fast, and maybe they could have done some more stuff to make him a bit more evil still at the beginning, and take a little bit, maybe a few more episodes for him to warm up to being nicer. I don't know. What do you think? Anyway, that's kind of my general thoughts on Loki. It's late. I'm sorry. I don't know what to say. I just didn't get around to doing it. But now you've got my thoughts. I don't know if anybody's going to watch this. Everybody's moved on. Now we're on to What If in a couple of weeks' time. I don't know if I'm going to be doing weekly reviews of that, because it kind of overlaps with when the new Star Trek Lower Decks season starts, and I want to do weekly reviews of that. I don't know if I've got time to do weekly reviews of two shows at once. So I'll see what I do around What If. I might cover it, I might not. Let me know in the comments below if you want me to, then I might consider it. But in the meantime, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and all that jazz, and I'll be back for more MCU content soon. Thanks for watching. See you soon.